So now let me start introducing our today's speakers. Yesterday we had an interesting session in the evening, kind of a first case study that is by an affiliated institution by the experts from Father Consequio Rodriguez College of Engineering. As I told you yesterday, that peer assessment and the peer way of learning is one of the best method of learning. And the title of OBE is Critical Issues and Solutions, a Case Study Approach. So this is the second case study, but it is from an autonomous institution. Now it has obviously become a private university, I would say, but it is always good to have the insights into an institution which is an autonomous and what kind of issues they have faced as far as accreditation concepts are concerned, and what kind of solutions probably they would have visualized in last few years. That is what is our aim. This case study will be very, very important for all the participants, and to be in particular for us as an organizing committee, because KJ Somaiya College of Engineering is one of the, in fact, I think first private college in the Mumbai University to become an autonomous institution. And we are happy that there are two resource persons who have contributed to a great extent in designing the curriculum and entire autonomy as such perspective of KJ Somaiya College of Engineering, and both of them are over here. In fact, I must thank at the onset to their principal, Dr. Shubha Pandit ma'am, who has actually allowed their resource persons to share their knowledge of autonomy, their issues, their challenges and solutions with all of us. So I must say thanks to Shubha Pandit madam at the starting itself, before I forget to thank her. So thanks to ma'am for giving us such kind of resource person. All of us knows that now national education policy is in place, and they have categorized all institutions into three categories: type 1, type 2 and type 3. Type 1 is a research institution, type 2 is a teaching institution, and type 3 is going to be an autonomous degree granting institution. That means from here onwards, after 15 years, you will not at all see affiliated model or affiliated institution in an entire country. It's not about the Mumbai, but it's about the entire country. There won't be any affiliated colleges existing in this country. That's what national education policy states. If we go by that model, it is very, very essential for all of us to understand the nitty-gritties of an autonomous college, right? And by keeping that perception, organizing committee has welcomed one of the autonomous institution, well-known autonomous institution, to present their case study. So it is my privilege, and I'm pleased to introduce our two resource persons who will be talking to us, who will discuss with us about their challenges, what they have faced, and probably their solutions, issues, etc. with all of us. And I request all the participants to interact wholeheartedly with them through chat box, or you can unmute your mic and talk to them. So I'll, in a sequence, I will introduce first Dr. Ramesh Lekkurwale sir. So sir, I welcome you at SPIT as such, and at this STTP at Sardar Patel Institute of Technology. I welcome you.
Thank you, sir.
So Dr. Ramesh Lekkurwale is currently the professor and head of Department of Mechanical Engineering at KJ Somaiya College of Engineering, Vidyavihar, Mumbai. He has received PhD in Production Engineering from Department of Production Engineering, VJTI, in 2015. He has teaching experience of 26 years in academics. His areas of interest are operation research, project management, manufacturing planning and control, computer integrated manufacturing, and engineering optimization. He has contributed to more than 30 research papers and has filed a patent also. He has been invited for talks at various institutions. He was Journal Conference Reviewer in International Journal of Supply and Operations Management, International Journal of Industrial and Systems Engineering, 4th International Conference on Transformation in Engineering Education, and 2nd National Conference on Recent Trends in Mechanical Engineering at Walchand College of Engineering. He has availed UGC grant for presenting a research paper in IEEE International Conference at Bangkok, Thailand. Sir is the life member of IST and is also a life member of Indian Institution of Industrial Engineering since 2009. Sir has received several funded projects, including minor grants from university, etc. He is one of the major grantees from Department of Science and Technology, that is on design and development of craniotome device for skull cutting of rupees 36 lakhs. And he's also having several research grants. And thank you, sir. Thank you very much for sparing your valuable time. And I wish and I look forward to your session for this. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Rathod sir. That DST 36 lakhs grant, it is applied only, not approved.
Okay. I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the next next resource person is Professor Aarti Phadke, madam. I was associated with madam for many of the courses, I would say, and many times we had interacted. And I am pleased to announce the madam as a resource person for this session. Madam is MTech in Power Electronics from IIT Bombay. She is an associate professor, Department of Electronics Engineering, KJ Somaiya College of Engineering, Vidyavihar, since 1991. She was Dean of Student Affairs from May 2005 to April 2008. She has 2 years industrial experience and 29 years of experience in the field of teaching. Presently, Madam is in charge of accreditation for the institute since July 2014. She was also head of Department of Electronics Engineering from May 2008 to June 2011. She has worked as a member of Academic Council of the college since 2014 till 2019. She has published papers at various international and national conferences, which includes 4 international journals of repute. Madam's research interests are digital system design, embedded systems, microprocessors and microcontrollers, engineering education, technology for education, etc. Madam is member of academic audit of the institution which we have witnessed yesterday, that is CRC Bandra. She is the convener of local inquiry committee of University of Mumbai. Madam is rather on various committees of Universities of Mumbai. She is a member of IEEE since 1998. She was also the student branch counselor from 2003 to 2009, and from 2009 she is a branch mentor, IEEE branch mentor. Madam is also the life member of IST, etc. And she is having so many activities to her credit at the institution level, like moderation committee, curriculum revision committee. So after autonomy, Madam was very, very active in designing many processes at the institute level. So Madam, I welcome you to SPIT and this STTP in general. So now this floor belongs to you two. Now you decide how do you carry forward this discussion for next 2 hours, but we will be looking forward for a great interaction. And welcome, ma'am. And welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your kind words. And I feel you're talking about somebody else. I didn't know that you have actually listed what all probably I have done in bits and pieces at my institute. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. May I request Lekroy, sir, can you share the presentation or I should share?
No, I'm sharing, madam.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Sir, the way in which we will go, I will speak in general as a policy in accreditation, what we did at KJ Somaiya College of Engineering, and followed by Dr. Lekurwale will present in details a case study of what was done in mechanical engineering department when we went for accreditation. So welcome all participants, and I must appreciate that you all are here to get into something where quality is the focus and continuous efforts and striving for improvement is the key. Now this is something not very simple task. It is something which will require your dedication, and hence I'm congratulating you for being present here to listen to others' experiences and learn from that, appreciating that. I feel this is a gathering of all dedicated teachers coming on a common platform, and I must say that the organizing committee themselves, including Rathod sir himself and Kasambe sir and everybody at SPIT also have worked a lot in this aspect, and this is a kind of forum where we should exchange ideas, share our thoughts, and benefit from each other. Share and learn is the key. Just to brief about my college, like sir has said earlier, KJ Somaiya College of Engineering is a fairly renowned college in Mumbai, I would say humbly, but I would like to mention here that this was the first college which started with accreditation right in 1998. Probably the principal at that time used to very proudly say that we are the first private engineering college to get accredited. And the only reason why we did that, we had a strong belief in the fact that when you go through such process, such a rigorous process, the benefit that you get at the institute level is you tend to improve the quality of all academics in the institute. Of course, the nature of accreditation process at that time was quite different, but still the focus of improving and the focus of bringing in quality is something which was very, very important. I feel if you understand the essence of accreditation in letter and spirit, no matter what format the NBA gives the form. What we need to understand is the focus of bringing in quality. Of course, after becoming autonomous and with the able leadership of Dr. Shubha Pandit, I should not go ahead without mentioning her name to start with. We actually designed many things at autonomy, and we put in efforts, and we continued to have, you know, that consciousness about the quality for the continuous improvement to improve the academic ecosystem in the college. So it is not only what NBA says, but it is also what we as an institute, we as a group, we as faculty members do matters a lot. You all must be familiar with NBA guidelines. I'm sure there are a number of experts who have given you very elaborate talks about what NBA guidelines are and what NBA expects, and even in self-assessment report, etc. But we all know that everything revolves around keywords which are known as outcome-based education. No matter we are filling in for the NBA, whether we are in an affiliated institute format or whether we are in the autonomous institute format, doesn't matter, but the philosophy of outcome-based education does not change much, because it is actually in the interest of improving graduates' quality at a national level. Like very rightly Rathod sir mentioned, with the new education policy, they are expecting that there should not be any kind of dependency, and there should not be any curtailment of your motivation, and hence you will be a degree delivering authority. Now, of course, authority comes with a lot of responsibility, and hence we are here actually to discuss on a very small level what we did at KJ Somaiya College of Engineering past 7-8 years in the autonomous structure, and what all we tried to implement. So I would like to mention here that I'm aware that many people have tried many things, and I would like to learn or hear from you as well. What we are presenting is just a small efforts at our institute level. Next slide, sir, please. So of course, this is just a content slide, and as I said, we will just have a small review of OBE, what OBE expects us to do, and then what is the main, which is outcome assessment, and we will talk about issues in outcome assessment, some practices that we follow, and of course a case study followed by presented by Dr. Linkurwal. Next slide, please, sir. So I'm here presenting first statement on this slide, which is NBA statement just picked up from NBA mission. With your due permission, I'm just switching off my video just to make sure that bandwidth is sufficient. NBA mission statement I'm presenting here just as a bold statement to start with, and would like to draw your attention to three things. The mission is to stimulate quality of teaching. It's not only about quality of teaching, it is actually about the quality of education or the quality of learning that will happen ultimately with the students. Of course, in the process, it is expected that the institutions will be continuously aware and hence will be doing self-evaluation, and they will feel themselves accountable or responsible for improving the quality of education. Now, if we understand, as I said, this statement very thoroughly, we all know that in the recent years, the format or the philosophy of NBA has changed, and the implementation of outcome-based education is being very much emphasized. It is emphasized in developed and developing nations, and the Washington Accord. I will not repeat the contents probably which are presented to you by many experts. But the fact that the whole world is doing this, not because the Western world is doing this, but it makes sense to have a focus on students' outcomes. The whole thing was revolved and changed over around outcome-based education. What does that mean? Does that mean that only students are responsible for their own learning and we should do assessment of their learning, etc., etc.? In true sense, yes, we are going to do assessment of their learnings or outcomes, but the responsibility lies on the other side. It's not with the students only. It's in fact the responsibility of inculcating these qualities, which are known as graduate attributes, through a very well developed system, lies with the institute, lies with how the institute has developed the academic ecosystem, lies with the teacher, in fact, how he is looking at it. And hence, the other words, which are self-evaluation and accountability, is for the institute, but for every teacher. Every teacher is continuously in the feedback loop, as we say in control systems, where continuously you are checking what I have done and where is the gap and how am I going to improve, and I'm accountable for that. Hence, understanding the philosophy of learning teaching, as many of the experts have coined this terminology, that the focus is on learning and teaching is the reason for learning. So philosophy of learning, teaching, and breathless efforts for the same. I mean, it is never that, I have done it and I have done it, that's it. It will be never-ending process. So breathless efforts for the same is something which is the very core of outcome-based education. So next slide, please. So I'm sure all the dedicated teachers do not have this confusion, but I wanted to have this slide here that please, accreditation is not just a compliance. Accreditation is not something which, as a formality we will do and finish it off. Accreditation is not something which you will do it in 11th hour and go ahead with that. Of course, it requires a lot of meticulous documentation, data collection, analysis when you're applying. But to reduce the efforts when you're applying, the key is, if you understand the philosophy of OBE, internalize in your system. What do you mean by internalize in your system? What are you going to do? You are going to actually implement right from the curriculum design level to each and every activity. If we, incorporate the philosophy of OBE in each and every action that you are doing, it gets internalized in the system. Effectively, the result you produce or the documents you collect are just as a part of your system. We otherwise anyway do it. We teach them, we conduct exam, we declare the results. Now, in the whole process, if you internalize OBE, then what happens is accreditation is just one external review of your system, and gradation will be based on that review. Next slide, sir, please. So just a recap, outcome-based education is student-centered because we are focusing on performance of the students. Is the performance only technical performance? Loud and clear, accreditation board has said that only technical performance or only technical knowledge gathered is not sufficient to lead the life as a professional. When they have to lead the life as a professional, what they require is knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And the skills and the attitude part is equally important, and hence it should get internalized in your system. So outcomes are focusing on knowledge, skills, and attitudes. So we should have the whole system focusing on knowledge, skills, and attitudes. So obviously, outcome-based education, outcome-based accreditation focuses mainly on the outcomes of the program, not only on the input and output parameters. So what is that OB is emphasizing on? How are the students learning? What are they in a position to do at the end of 4 years? Because there were huge number of surveys which said that so many graduates, engineering graduates are graduating every year, but they are unemployable. With a pinch of salt, when you hear or when you read something like this, it hurts. Isn't it? We are putting in efforts, but it is not reaching. So what is happening? So the focus has to be on what are they capable of doing at the end of the program, at the end of the course, at the end of the every activity. And that is the feedback system, as I say. So then what are we going to do? We are going to actually develop a system which will enable them to do something at the end of the course, at the end of the program. And then we are actually very cautiously assessing what they are going to do or what they are in a position to do and what they're expected to do. So there is something which they are expected to do. We are assessing whether they are going to or they are able to do that. So the assessment should always focus on what they are expected to do. And then orient the whole process of teaching, learning, or in fact, all academic processes, it's not only teaching, learning, also assessment, to facilitate that the students will learn what they are supposed to learn. Students will be able to do what they are expected to do. So the whole emphasis, nobody can change the education from scratch, but the paradigm has to shift. And OB is just emphasizing on that. That's it, that your paradigm should shift. That is the key in this outcome-based education. Let me tell you, as a teacher, I started teaching when I was not sure whether I will be able to, deliver the contents to the students. If I read a book, I understand, I solve problems is something different than when you teach somebody to do it, or when you handhold somebody to do that. So how will I improve my performance? I used to think that I should read more, I should increase my knowledge base, I should work on the content delivery, the way in which I will write on board, the way in which I will present, the way in which I will deliver. So the whole focus was on the transmission or on the delivery. How many times did I actually think at that time that what am I talking? Does it make sense to the students? Do they learn? Do all of them learn? Do I look at only those who are, understanding and quickly going ahead, and I'm happy that I'm teaching? Probably in early age of our teaching, this may have happened. The focus was not on the learner. OB actually changed I will tell you my story. OB actually changed my paradigm. It said, oh, okay, get up, wake up. It's not about how good you are in your knowledge. It's not about how good you are in your delivery. It's about how good they are in a position to learn. So if that is the paradigm shift, I should ask every time this question to myself: I am teaching, are they learning? And I'm sure you may have, many of you may have heard this as a mantra given by organization known as IUCEE, but they are very strongly saying that you are teaching, but are they learning? And I think that is the basic key line of OBE. Sir, next slide, please. I'm sure that each of you are aware of what NBA manual is. May I know? I mean, I don't need to explain you what is vision, what is mission, what is program education objectives. So vision is something which your institute is, dreaming about or passionate about. Mission is the path that you may have decided to go towards your dream. The educational objectives of any graduate is something which he looks at, okay, after 4 or 5 years, what am I going to be doing, or what will I be happily doing as a professional? And then to enable him to achieve his educational objectives, you are defining what qualities at the end of the 4 years he should have as program outcomes. So program outcomes essentially are something which you are trying to impart to the students, or you are trying to inculcate in the students in the span of 4 years when they are with you, so that they can achieve their educational objectives down the line 5 years of their career. Of course, your institute will be specific, will be doing certain specific things, and hence they are not just 12 characteristics nationwide, but you may have something very, very special about you, and you may have defined program specific outcomes. How are you going to achieve all of these big words? So you are going to go semester by semester, teaching them courses by courses. And at the end of every course, you expect them to learn certain things in bits and pieces. They are nothing but your course outcomes. So they acquire course outcomes each one by one, acquire some skills one by one, develop their technical knowledge, develop so many things in the span of 4 years, and go towards achieving program outcomes at the span of 4 years, at the end of 4 year span. Down the line, they will achieve their program educational objectives, fulfilling the mission and vision of the institute. So next slide, please. So I'm taking your permission, Rathod sir, Kasambe sir, here to opportunity to interact with the participants, and I will expect a little help from them. You all are teachers, so you're teaching some course or the other, no matter what branch, no matter what course you are teaching. But you have defined course outcomes. You may have seen some course outcomes. You may have planned some associated activity. So I'll request you to go to menti.com, type menti.com in the Google, and use code word which is 8966334, and answer the question which says write one course outcome, and associated assessment tool, maybe in a word or two, maybe in a sentence or two, and let me see what kind of responses I get from my.
May I request a code once again? I will put it in the chat box.
Sure. 8966334. Shall I put it in the chat box?
Please, madam.
Yeah. 8966334 is the code, and menti.com is the site.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. So dear participants, I'll give you 2 minutes, but inputs from you are going to be really very helpful for me to speak further. Sir, this pandemic has taught us this method of interacting with our participants or our students, because otherwise there is no way by which we can interact with them.
Yeah. And this is a good method actually. You don't come to know there no facial expressions, nothing as such.
Yeah, I agree. So the responses have started coming and I'm really very happy. Let me collect some 4-5 responses and I will give it to Lekruai sir so that you can also show the responses. So just to save times, I'm just downloading 4 responses and sharing it with Lekruai sir. Of course, there participants in the meanwhile, you can keep giving more responses and I'll be happy to actually talk about it as well or use them further in my I do not know whether we should actually show the responses. In the meanwhile, I can actually read the responses which I have received in the interest of time. And the responses are like this. I will read 1 or 2 and we'll go ahead. I'm very happy that all the participants are actually knowing that my course outcome statement should start with something which is a action verb. I'm seeing course outcomes which are saying acquire skill or analyze or design or they will be able to design combinational circuits or they will be able to analyze MOSFET based circuits, something like that. So I'm sure that we all are aware that how the course outcome should be designed, and of course we are also equally knowing that what is the associated activity which is going to be measuring that particular course outcome which I'm talking about. So sir, shall we go ahead with the next slide?
Yes.
Thank you. So here I'm going to talk about maybe more in depth about what are we doing as CO assessment. I would again like to say that many of us are doing similar things. I may be talking particularly about what we did in our college. What we did, as sir has said, with the autonomy when we were designing curriculum, we were having institute level committee and department representatives, and we are always meeting, lots of meetings. People are fed up with number of meetings, but meetings are not just waste of time. Meetings are for sharing ideas and meetings are for improving the contents. So when we were designing curriculum, we were defining the course outcomes very carefully. We were ensuring that they are talking specific about the action word or the ability that the students are going to grasp. We were actually debating with fellow teachers who are teaching the same course, whether the students are in a position to do it. So is it achievable? How are we going to design the questions or design the activities for measuring those kind of course outcomes, and whether they are realistic or not. So we very carefully designed or articulated the course outcomes in the curriculum. Of course, the curriculum was revolving around achieving those course outcomes, and the modules were designed for achieving those course outcomes. Along with that, in our system, we had designed assessment methodology. Of course, in the autonomous structure especially, this was possible, that we changed the evaluation pattern or the examination pattern, giving more importance to continuous assessment or continuous evaluation, which happens during the term. And hence, we were having more number of assessment tools which we could conduct during the term. Now, because assessment tools, more number of assessment tools were possible during the semester, and the end semester examination weightage was reduced to 60% at that time. Today we are having 50% end semester examination weightage. So 50% of the marks are given to students with the activities that they are doing during the semester. Now what actually helps is, because you are designing your own activities or your own assessment tools, there are norms which are defined at the institute level. Some assessment tools were uniform, like in semester test, which is a paper test taken from the students, but there were around 20 marks of activities where the faculty member is completely choosing the way in which the learning of the student is judged or is assessed. So you have a lot of flexibility in implementing number of activities depending on what are the course outcomes. For example, if I'm teaching them, I'm sorry, I'm giving my examples. If I'm teaching them something like a hardware description language course, then I'm not taking a paper test of them. I'm actually giving them a programming test. I'm making them go to computers, solve the program, solve the design in a given time, and then come back with the answer. That is my internal assessment, and that freedom lies with the faculty. Of course, group of faculty members who are teaching that course are designing such activities. Sometimes I may give something like a case study, or sometimes we may give something like a mini project. Now what actually happens is, when you're designing activities like this, we are actually focusing on what we want to achieve, and depending on that, you're designing the activities. So in the process of actually designing activities to achieve the course outcomes, you're also focusing on the program outcomes achievement or assessment. And hence, it is very, very linked that your course outcomes are associated with some program outcomes. Now, we all are aware that there are 12 graduate attributes. First 4 or 5 of them are very, very easily satisfiable with the technology courses that we are teaching it to students. But when it comes to skills and attitudes kind of graduate attributes, then it becomes really very difficult to map them with the technology courses. Of course, it's a need of an hour that those skills are also to be inculcated to the students, and majority of the activities that they do in the college are curriculum, courses, learning and examination, etc. So if we can internalize even all those aspects also in our teaching learning, there are 2 advantages of that. Number 1 is the activities, because of those activities, the course becomes interesting. interesting to those type of learners who are believing in activities more than the theoretical study. And also then in the process, they learn better. So what we also did as a third step here, that we said, okay, when we are designing a curriculum, we are defining the course outcomes, we are also defining how these course outcomes are mapping to which POs or the program outcomes, and then design the activities such that more program outcomes are mapped. And then you write down, actually we created a template where we collected justification from the faculty members, groups of faculty members. Again and again I say group, because for a particular stream of courses, we have certain typical faculty members taking those courses. So we normally have department divided into such 4 or 5 groups, and we normally have all the design processes in these groups, which we are calling is as thrust area groups or something like that. Terminology is not important, but the process is. So we collected some kind of CO to PO activities and justification also. This builds a very strong background of why we are doing it and what we are doing it. What happens actually is this understanding throughout the institute helps when the team has to visit your institute and suddenly they will ask question to anybody. Whoever is teaching is knowing this thoroughly well. There's yet another problem of when we have to define course outcome for measurability or for assessment, we decide some kind of target, and I think it is defined in NBA manual also. So how should you define the target? What thought process should go in it? What typically is decided as a target? Should that be flexible? Should it change from course to course? Now these, I'm just throwing some questions in front of you, and I'm sure that all of us have thought about these things, and we know we can rationalize it. We know very well that if it is a course which is a core course, which is a fundamental course for any engineering, electronics engineering graduate to know, then of course the target should be such that maximum number of students should be in a position to achieve what they are supposed to achieve through the course outcomes. Let me give you an example of programming courses which are taught right in the first year or something. In today's era, everybody, no matter what branch of engineering they are studying, they will need to come across some kind of programming, and maybe because of that, that is something which is very, very crucial. So deciding what the target is amongst 4 or 5 course outcomes, I may feel that this is most crucial, so I can set the target for that course outcome slightly more. So at the institute level, we decided that in the normal course, we will have the target set as 60%. Which does that mean? What does that mean? Minimum 60% of students should achieve 60% marks, something like that. And then course to course, we can have variation. So that variation was also something which was thought, discussed, deliberated, and finally decided that this kind of variation should be there. One more thing is, when we are doing this course for the first time, and when we are actually teaching it subsequently, it is expected that every time you look at what has happened, you identify what went wrong, what went right, what was the correct method, whether you got experience from the student and teachers. So from feedback of students and teachers, you will collect the learnings in that particular course. And then improvise, either improvise the delivery method or improvise the assessment, or change the way in which you will do the assessment, or may change the target, or change the level of difficulty, taxonomy level in your assessment tool. So certain things like that I will not be able to tell you for what course what is the appropriate. It is the team who is teaching that course will sit down, brainstorm, and decide appropriate action for the next academic year. That is how we have gone about it. So next slide, please. So again, I'm asking one question here. These are the program outcomes which are defined by National Board of Accreditation. Like PO9 or Graduate Attribute 9 actually indicates teamwork and multidisciplinary teams or something like that. So it is expected that they should be in a position to, you know, work in the team as a leader or as a team member, cooperate with each other and something like that. Now, does that mean that it will be satisfied only through the capstone project or through the small or mini projects that they are doing, or what we should do, how to improve the contribution of PO9? Again, I will request you to go to menti.com and use the code 7567690. I'll just type it in the chat again. 7567690. So very nice. I've started receiving responses. Somebody has said presentation, group discussion, mini project or project of 4-5 students, brainstorming, group discussions. We all are aware of, again and again I'm saying this, that I'm not giving you anything which is a new jargon. We all are aware of this, right? Course mini projects, field activity, maybe surveys, maybe literature survey in a group. Very interestingly, I gave a video making activity to the students. So I said, don't come to me and present. Make a video yourselves, and they liked it actually. In fact, we have, because of that internal assessment, let me tell you, we have conducted very interesting activities for assessment of students. Like there was one activity, not by me, by my colleague, conducted where it was a team activity. So one problem was given to the team, and how the team was formed. Prior to the activity, there was a pre-quiz, and based on the quiz results, it was a mixture of low performing and high performing students. So the teams were made of all heterogeneous teams. And then the problem was given, and it was said that you solve the problem together, but who will present, we will choose. So in that case, what happens is the team is quite cautious about, even if the low performing student has to present, he should be equipped with all the knowledge. So they teach him so much, because we said that the team marks will be common marks to all. Because of that, they actually did a lot of peer learning. They actually interacted in the team. They actually taught each other, discussed, debated, and came up with one solution. Now, this actually helped them in, you know, building the team and coming out, because every team wanted to have better results. They didn't want to lose their marks because of somebody's poor performance. They ensured that their team member is performing well. This was a very good exercise of making them learn with peers. The fear of those who are not performing was gone away. I mean, there were a lot of other outcomes of such activity also. my point here is once the teacher starts thinking, humongous number of innovative ideas do come up. And then when we plan such activity, we plan and map these activities to outcomes such as teamwork or something like this. And in the meanwhile, a lot of, it's a word cloud happening, case study presentation, group discussions, etc., said by many people. And I'm sure that everybody is aware of such things and be very innovative to map these kind of POs as well. Sir, next slide, please. So same thing. Another thing, hurdle is how to map those POs, which are teamwork, communication, lifelong learning, etc. So give the team assignments, ask them to present, ask them to study together, ask them to make a video. But for all these, we can design hundreds of activities. I'm not having doubt about it. Where we have to take care is following. When we are assessing these activities, we have to very carefully design the rubrics for assessment. If we are mapping a particular course outcome to POs such as teamwork or communication or ethics for that matter, in my rubrics, I should have a criteria and enough weightage for that criteria, which says that I will evaluate their performance in the team. And based on that, I will grade out of 5. Or I will evaluate the way in which they have written the report. And then I will have some 5-mark weightage for that. Or I may say that their report should be with a plagiarism check. And I will have some, which means that if they don't do it, they will get less marks. Unless it is reflecting in their performance, unless it is reflecting in their marks with properly defined rubrics, which are communicated to them well in time. They are aware when performing this activity that I'm supposed to do all these things to get the best of my marks. So no matter how good the project is, if it is done by one person and others are just sleeping partners, then it is not an indication of teamwork. Even that fellow who has performed well should not get marks of teamwork. So basically, involvement of a teacher in designing the rubrics and very rigorously following the rubrics is very, very important in this case. So because we want to actually all these graduate attributes, designing activity and following it very rigorously is a mandate. One more thing which we have actually given a thought over it and tried to incorporate in our system, and that is something which is students are often interested in doing a lot of co-curricular and extracurricular activities. They are planning technical or semi-technical, we can say, co-curricular activities really in a good manner. They are improving their technical skills also in that process. They are also doing a lot of extracurricular activities such as sports and cultural activities such as. Now, number of skill and attitude kind of outcomes are also getting fulfilled through such activities. So shouldn't we give due weightage to it? I mean, even if it is not a direct assessment as such, we should have developed some mechanism by which, we will give some weightage, we will decide the level. How many students are, of course, meticulously, we need to collect data from the students for this. But after you collect the data, you can actually map student activities to program outcomes, which are all the knowledge, all the skill and attitude based program outcomes. Number of lifelong learning skills or understanding project management, etc., can be actually achieved through mega projects that the students take part in, and so on. Of course, inclusion of select students is not the focus. Inclusion of all students is the focus in our OBE, and hence what we try to do is at least some activities everybody should do. So we incorporated right in the first year a course which is known as exposure. We call it as an exposure course in our system. This is a non-credit course, so there is no pressure of performance or there is no pressure of examination, but this is kind of a hobby type of a course. So there are a lot of some 15-20 options are there for students, and they can choose one of that. So they can either play tabla or learn music or some dance or sports or painting or literature or literary writing or appreciation of art. I mean, a lot of variations were there in those exposure courses, and students have actually liked it. I mean, certain courses like Buddhism and Jainism is also something which students have chosen and they have done. So what we have tried to do is at least these kind of activities, every student is participating, so that some kind of achievement of extracurricular activities can be done through this. So many things. Sir, next slide, please. Yes, you were right to be on the next slide. So many things I may have said, and a question, including myself, used to come at that time that meeting mein bola theek hai, but when it comes to doing it, design the rubrics and actually evaluate each and every student's assessment based on all those things, and then make a record of all the data, and then calculate CO assessment. It's a tedious work for the teacher, and a lot of debates have happened over a period of time which said that, are we here to teach or are we here to do these calculations? Suddenly, with new format of NBA, teachers talking to each other from variety of colleges. I remember when we used to meet in university or somewhere, ye calculation ne bore kar diya, kind of, right? So we thought, okay, why not find out a solution here ourselves? Let me tell you in this matter that we talk about, students' teamwork or students' communication skills or students' ethics or students' lifelong learning. But many a times I have felt myself that teachers' teamwork, teachers' communication with each other, teachers' ethics, and teachers' lifelong learning is very, very important in implementing all these things. What we did as a team in our college is we have developed a G Suite based tool for assessment of course outcomes and program outcomes thereafter. We all are using Gmail account given as a somaiya.edu account, so we have an easy access to G Suite applications. It is a very well developed based on the policies which we implemented in our college. So all the formulae and all the calculation mechanisms for CO, etc. is implemented in that G Suite application. And it is very, very comfortable because no teacher has to spend time specifically on calculations. All that the teacher has to do is do the data entry, which may be with the help of laboratory assistants or something we can do, and the calculations actually happen automatically. Of course, there is a scope here to decide different targets or decide different number of course outcomes, etc. So enough amount of flexibility is also given in that. One more thing I would like to say as a in-charge accreditation, or Dr. Lekuroy will agree with me, that when you're applying for NBA, you're always concerned that whether all teachers have done the calculations right or wrong. Now, once you have such a tool developed, we have no worries, because uniform formulae are applied everywhere, and hence there are minimum chances of errors. I'm not saying that there won't be any errors, but there are very few chances of errors. You can very easily keep the data. You can easily, take the data from semester to semester and compile it for PO assessment. I felt very strongly that with the development of such a tools, CO assessment was fairly easy or fairly time saving activity as compared to manual methods. And then you can devote your time more on designing better activities, designing different internal assessments and so on. So many things I may have said in the process. The key, as I said, is how good you work as a team of teachers. Please communicate with each other. Uh, Respect everybody's opinions. Discuss, deliberate, does not matter. Even if you spend time in doing that, the result what you come out with will always be better. With so much of said on OBE basics, what we did in our college, I will like to hand over now to Lecroy sir. Sir, please, handing it over to you. He's head of department mechanical engineering and gone through the whole of accreditation process in 2019. So over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. First of all, let me thank Professor Rathod, Professor Kasambe for giving me the opportunity to share my views, which I come across or which I learned during the accreditation. I wanted to tell you one thing over here. Our college, that to our department, that is our BTech program, got accredited under Tier 1 category in 2019. So whatever the experience I learned, that only I am going to share over here. Arti madam has given you the exhaustive views about the overview of NBA as well as some highlights related to our college. Now in my presentation, you will learn how that tools and technique has been actually implemented and getting implementation and implemented the OBE successfully. So that you will learn or you will experience in my presentation now. So for this, I have taken the one case study, that is machine design 1. Since I am from the mechanical engineering, I have selected that course. Now here machine design 1, here in bracket you will see C309. That is nothing but the NBA terminology. C stands for the course, 3 stands for the third year, and 09 stands for the serial number of that particular course. Now, what are the issues and challenges in implementing the OBE? The main problem with the implementation of outcome-based education is these are the some steps. Articulation of the CO statement. Again, Arti madam already told you about the articulation. So in our college, what we did, articulation of the CO statement, we have make the groups of the faculty of similar area, maybe you can say thrust area and all that. They have deliberated, they have, you can say, struggle, or they sometimes they fought each other while articulating the proper CO statement. Now, one thing you should remember, that while articulating the CO statement, you should able to think how you are going to map, how you are going to attain, how you are going to assess. All these things you need to think before articulating the statement. Now, then what you have to do, you have to map that particular CO with the all PO 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, it is not hard and fast, all CO and all PO should map with each and every event, not at all possible. Okay. Then how you are going to assess that CO? What are the tools and techniques? What are the methods you are going to use to assess that CO? Then what are the attainment levels? NBA has already given the attainment levels 1, 2, 3. So you have to which level of that CO has been attained, whether it is 1, 2, or 3. And what was your mapping? That should correlate. Then attainment of PO with reference to the mapping. Now, if you see the second point, mapping of CO, then how much level that PO has been attained? Mapping is nothing but your judgment. You can say CO1 to PO1 2. That way you will find out the average. Then you will get the average mapping. That mapping you have to correlate with the attainment. That means whatever the judgment you have taken, whether your judgment is correct or not, That you will come to know at the end. Okay. Then, if the mapping and the attainment is not matching, then you will find it is a gap. That is called as the gap identification. If there is some gap in that one attainment, then how you are going to fill up that gap? That also you have to think. The filling up that gap is nothing but the continuous improvement. You need to think about what are the various tools and techniques, what are the innovative ways that I have to inculcate, I have to use in my teaching learning process as well as in assessment process. For that, what you have to do? You have to identify that corresponding CO, in which CO that particular particular PO is lacking. Okay. Then once you got the CO, then you find out the first of all you have to find out the course, then you have to find out which CO is lacking. Then once you identified the particular CO, then why it was lacking. Okay, you have to find out the reason, and that reason you have to implement for the next batch. That is called as the course of action. Okay, when you implement the course of action, definitely the CO improvement, CO to PO improvement you will find, and that I can prove with my case study, which you are going to see in the next 2-3 slides. Okay, deciding the course of action to improve the beacon. Next, now see, this is the CO to PO mapping for one of the course machine design. Now here you'll say CO demonstrate the understanding of various design. It's mapping at level 2. Okay, this is the judgment of the faculty. Okay, it can be 2, it can be 3. If you do it, you can do it according to your judgment. This is 3. Then here you will get the average mapping 2, 3, 2.5 and all that. Okay, this is for one course. Like that you need to do for all 40 to 45 courses from first year to final year. Here you will see one more example, that is automation and control. This is C405. 405, it is the final year course. This is from the batch 14-18. That means when you are doing it, you have to do for one batch. That means the student will remain same. Student admitted in 2014 and passed out in 2018. Then and only then you will get the clear outcome. Then here, this is again the mapping. This mapping is nothing but it is your judgment. Here you got the average mapping over here. Then after doing for all courses, all 45 courses, here so can you see the hyperlink? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now after in the other 2 slides you are I have shown you the mapping. Now this mapping you have to do for all courses 1 to 40 or maybe 45, whatever may be there. Okay, then here this is the this is the target set. Now for PO1 my target set is 2.71. PO2 this is my target set. So this is my now target set for all PO as well as PO. Okay, for one batch. Okay. Then you can do the further analysis. How many courses are mapping with the PO? For example, if you see PO1 51 courses are mapping. Why PO1 51 courses are mapping? Because in PO1 you can see the basic knowledge of mathematics, science and all that is there. So that is required. So that's why maximum courses are mapping to the PO1. Here, then slowly it is reduced. Most of the courses are mapping from PO1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However, it is getting reduced. Okay. Next. Now here again we can do the this set values also. Set means the target values. Okay. So 2.71 for PO1 I should get 2.71 according to my judgment, according to the judgment of the faculties. Okay. For PO2 I should get 2.54. Okay. So that way for all PO12 and PO also. So this judgment that should be get proved by my various methods of assessment. If it is not, then there is some lacuna or maybe some gap. That gap I have to identify. Now, how you are going to do all the CO attainment? This is the complete process of CO attainment. CO attainment is first CO assessment. Attainment related to the level and assessment related to the percentage. CO assessment. Here direct assessment and indirect assessment. Indirect assessment, you are having the semester end examination, cumulative internal assessment. Now, in cumulative internal assessment, in semester examination, internal assessment and the lab. Okay, or you can say the continuous assessment. Whatever the assessment you are doing throughout the semester. Then course exit survey. At the end, we are taking the course exit survey for each courses, and that percentage we are taking it 20%. Now, what exactly the process of measurement of direct method? In direct method, here what you have to do, we have to frame your question papers according to the CO as well as the Bloom taxonomy level. This RM is remembering, applying, understanding, all that, CO1, CO2. So once you are design your question paper accordingly, then after assessment you will come to know what is the percentage of mapping, percentage assessment. How you can do that? CO assessment is equal to number of students scoring 60% mark. 60% is that the target we have taken, divided by total number of students into 100. So this is the process we are following. Then similarly, measurements of CO achievement through laboratory and assignment. For laboratory and assignment, here Artiman already told you we are having the method of designing rubrics, and rubrics that we are giving the students well in advance in the beginning of the semester only, so that students are well alert. Okay, all students are not getting equal mark. Our marks are ranging from 10 to 25 when the laboratory assessment is for 25 marks. Then now this is the case direct assessment here got. This is the actual values which we got after the conducting the test, in semester examination, end semester examination, labs and all that. This is for the direct assessment. Okay, this I taken only the direct assessment. Next here, the indirect assessment. What exactly the indirect assessment means? In indirect assessment, each and every faculty is creating the Google form. That Google form faculty is sharing with the students. The students are giving their inputs. That means, just I will give one example. What type of questions are there? Suppose machine design course. Have you understood the gear design? Have you understood the BL gear? Such questions are given. That means each and every questions are framed based on the module. Each module will have the 2 questions. So that way, almost 10 questions will be there for the 5 modules. And then once we got the response from the student, the response is evaluated using this formula, CO assessment, 5 into 5 number of students. This is the formula for that. Then now everyone is agree with me. The student can write anything. No, very few student will be serious to read the question and write the proper answer. Okay, so because of that, the NB has given the 20% weightage for the indirect assessment and 80% weightage for the direct assessment. Okay, so that formula we are using. Now this is the total assessment here. You can see here assessment level. This is direct assessment. This you got through your test, end semester examination, lab and all that. This is indirect assessment, it is a course exit survey. So this one is a 0.8 into D plus 0.2 into I. So this is the total assessment for that particular course for CO1. And our target set is 60. Since the target set is 60, here it is attainment level 3. How we got the attainment level 3? So it is written over here. Okay, if the CO assessment is less than 60%, level 1. If it is above 70%, it is level 3. Since here all the CO has assessed 70% and more, so attainment level is 3. So this way, each and every faculty is doing for their courses. Okay. Now, you may say that this is a very rigorous work. Yes, I am agree. But here, our madam also told you, I will show you the sample sheet. Our college has developed the one Excel software where we need to only feed up your data. You don't have to do anything. Faculty don't have to do anything. All the calculations done automatically. You can see the sample calculation sheet here. You can see the hello. You can see this sheet.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yeah. So this is, we called it as a course information sheet. Okay. Here, what exactly we have to do? You have to fill up this one. Okay. What is your target set and all that? This is the mapping you have to set. Okay. Then once you have done the mapping, here, this calculation and all that automatically will come. Okay. Once you are given the marks, you have to input is the marks. How much marks each and every student got in the test 1, question 1 and all that. I told you the framing of the question according to the Bloom taxonomy level as well as the your CO level. This calculation you will see over here. This is getting automatically. No, our faculty is not taking any pain calculating all these things. Automatically it is calculating. This assessment is also automatically calculated. Okay. Then this one. This is indirect survey. So this is the question. I have understood the design method and various design considerations. So this kind of question is given to the student, and the 98% student has agree with that. Okay. Like that, each and every CO has 2 questions. So this way, okay. Then this also direct assessment, indirect assessment, each and everything automatically you are getting. You have to just pick up this level. Levels also automatically coming because it is already set using this. Okay. So then here also contribution of outcome with program outcome. How much CO level, CO to PO level, how much is attained? This is also coming automatically. Okay. This one. Again, the average is also coming automatically. So like that, each and everything, what your work is only you have to give input your assessment. You can just copy paste the Excel sheet, marks of the student, everything is getting automatically calculated. Okay. Then here we are having the one thing, gap identified. Okay. Since here the mapping, whatever the mapping is there and whatever the attainment is more than the mapping, so the gap identified is not mentioned. Otherwise, gap identified will be there. However, here suggestion for better correlation, more focus to improve the CO4 by solving the variety of problem on shaft. Okay, shaft is nothing but one of the you can say the topic in the module 4, so that's why it is written there. So here CO4 attainment may be assessment is CO4, CO4 PO4. This is level 2. So if you want to go to the level 3, so you can take more number of problems. Then, so this I shown you for one course. So like that, all courses, all first year to final year are doing, and this is the direct attainment of total. Here you can see here. This is the actual numbers that we got after calculation. You can see here attainment PO1 I got attainment 2.7, PO2 2.79, like that. Okay. Then what you have to do? This table I shown you. Now we are taking the other activity also into consideration for finding out the attainment of the PO. Now whatever we have discussed so far for the PO attainment, that we are calling as a direct PO attainment. That is course, project, lab assessment and all that. Okay. So that is called as a direct attainment. However, indirect attainment of PO is program exit survey, employer survey, extracurricular activity and co-curricular activity. That also we are taking into consideration. Okay, that helps in the soft skill. Then average attainment of the PO. through course project and this one, average attainment of PO through all the activities, then final attainment again we are taking 80-20. Okay. So this way we are getting the final attainment for the PO. Okay. Next. Now what are the indirect methods in PO attainment? Program exit survey, then employer survey. Now how we are going to do this assessment of PO through extracurricular activity? So I have given you the one example. Student participation in extracurricular and co-curricular activities is compiled. Level 2, 3, 1 is given based on the type of the activity and number of students. That we can decide. Okay, that is our judgment. Okay, then each activity is mapped with the program outcome. Okay. So which type of activity is there and which program to which program it is getting mapped, that we have done. Then average attainment level of the entire activity is mapping with the CO2 is calculated. Okay, first is mapping and then calculation. Now this is the simple table. So what are the process, or you can say the indirect methods: project competition, paper presentation, industrial visit, internship, program survey, then employer survey, co-curricular activity, extracurricular activity. So this is calculated, this is average attainment calculated, and that has been added in the giving weightage of 20% added in the direct attainment, and the final final attainment of the program outcome for the batch 14-18 that we have received. Now here you will see the black color and the other that brown over here. Here, if you see the PO1 attainment is lesser than the target. However, in the PO2 the attainment is more and the target is less. So for PO2 I don't need any improvement. However, I need some improvement in the PO1. Okay. So this is nothing but the gap identification. Okay. For this gap identification, what you have to do, you need to change. You need to do some continuous assessment. You need to add some. You need to change some pedagogy. You need to use some innovative tools and technique. You need to do some corrective action over that. Then and only then that is active. And we have done it. And you will see the in my next PPT how it has been improved. Now, what are the various tools for the continuous improvement? Okay. Because since we are getting the PO attainment less than the target, it is a alarming situation for us to improve our system. So for continuous improvement, teaching learning pedagogies, delivery and assessment method. Okay, so these are the I am listing out various methods. Okay, then revision of CO statement during every revision of the curriculum. So we are revising the curriculum after completing one cycle. That means maybe for 4 years. Then to incorporate the hard skill, you have to incorporate hard skill, assessment of the soft skill. Then Bloom technology level need to be implemented across all the courses. This is the revised type Bloom technology: creating, evaluating, analyzing, applying, understanding, remembering. This you have to implement across the all level or all courses. Then soft skills such as lifelong learning, project management, sustainability, social responsibility, engineering skills that must be embedded in the assessment, case study as well as the project. Now, how you are going to assess this? How you are going to assess this Bloom technology, creating, evaluating? So these are the some assessment methods. That is course project, mini project, minor project, capstone project. Capstone project is nothing but the final year project. Then these are analyzing, understanding. You can very well understand, understanding, remembering, applying. This 3-4 analyzing. This 3-4 Bloom technology you can very well and assess through your end semester examination, in semester examination, lab and all that continuous assessment. Then what exactly the remembering means? Okay, so recalling the memory. So you should understand the meaning of this one. Understanding means see, explaining the ideas or the concept. If you are remembering, then you'll be able to understand, then apply, then analyze and evaluate. Then here whatever we have seen over here, remembering, understanding, applying and all that, this all comes under the cognitive domain of the Bloom technology. Now, in order to go to the psychomotor domain, here you have to do some hands-on experiment which you can attend using the physical laboratory as well as the simulation laboratory. Then again, the learning in engineering OBE can be improved using case study. So what the case study gives, it assesses the soft skill. What the problem-based learning gives is develop the teamwork, problem solving, and leadership. What the integrated design project, that means our final year project or maybe some your internship project and all that, that enhance the knowledge from interdisciplinary courses. Okay? Because when you do the project, it requires the knowledge of various courses, as well as sometimes other branch knowledge also is required. Now, when you give the industry project as well as the internship, that gives the experience to bring the learning experience into the practice. Whatever you learn, so how you can implement, so that you can do when you do the industry project. Then this IDP also industry integrated design project also develop the technical planning, management, the leadership, teamwork. So if you assess this in a proper way or implement in the proper way, you will be able to improve the PO from 6 onward, 6, 7, 8, 9. So attainment will be will more. Then this way the continuous improvement in teaching learning process, where the assessment of the course outcome provide information on how to improve the learning of the student. So this continuous assessment method that will improve the learning of the student. Now, whatever we have discussed so far, okay, that is actually implemented in the case study, how the CO to PO is improving, that you will see over here. Now, here I already told you that when there is a gap identification is there, so identify CO where PO attainment is low. Identify the CO of that course where attainment is low. Ask the faculty to suggest the course of action for the improvement. I have given you one example. Okay, attainment is less. Now here, if you see, first of all, find out the PO. Okay, now you have seen the PO1 level was less. Okay, there is a gap between the PO1 attainment and the target. Now for that, which CO is responsible? CO3 and CO4. For which course? For thermodynamics. For which year? For which semester? Third semester. For that, which year? Which academic year? 2017-18. Okay. Now here CO3 is less, attainment is less. Now that faculty has suggested the action, because department is asking to suggest the action, then the faculty has implemented that action for the next semester, next academic year. Now you will see the increase in the PO attainment. CO1 here attainment level is 1, here 2, here 2, here 2. That means by 1 level it has been improved. So what the faculty has done, more practical based numerical taken in the tutorial session. That means practical based learning that improves the PO. This is one example, one case study. Then another case study, dynamics of machinery, semester 6, okay, for 16-17. Here, if you see here, 1-1-1 here. Now the faculty has improved the teaching method, more practical problem, and the application-oriented problem were discussed in the class, targeting. Hence, all PO attainment level has been. Here you will see all PO attainment level has been increased. Level 1 has increased to 3, and level 2 also increased to 2, and attainment level is here 3, here it was. Now you can see the significant improvement over here. Okay, but it is not necessary that in each and every case the significant improvement will be there. Otherwise, some people may say there may be some malpractice has been done or some adjustment has been done. No. Hello? Hello? So, it is not like that. You will see the another example where some different varieties has been found. Now see, in the case study 3, analysis of PO, for finite element analysis, semester 6, 2016, semester 6, 2017-18. If you compare these two here, you will find CO1 to CO to PO mapping 1, 2, 3. Here in the 16 to 17, it is 1, 1, 1. However, it is in the 17-18, it is 222. It has been increased by level 1. But however, CO2 level has been decreased. Okay, CO2 attainment decreased by level 1. So earlier it was 2, now it is 1. Now, so it may so happen that the faculty has given the more concentration on the module which is relevant to the CO. He might have covered the more number of problems, more number of lectures, extra lectures, or some case study, group discussion. That means more concentration he might have given on the module related to CO, which has been increased. However, there might be less concentration on the module related to CO. So the CO2 CO2 attainment has decreased for the same course. So that means it is very clear that it is not necessary that the CO2 PO level has to be improved. It may decrease also. It can increase, it can decrease. It depends how that particular faculty is taking care of all the modules, all the CO and all the CO2 PO mapping. So what the faculty has done, more number of numerical were taken. Okay, discussing on mathematical modeling as well as the governing differential equation he might have taken was taken in the class targeting the CO1. So he has targeted CO1 only and he has forgotten the CO2 and CO3. Fortunately, CO3 not disturbed, but CO2 has been disturbed. So this also can happen. So you need to be very careful about this. Then, coming to the conclusion part here, just I want to conclude my session over here. Implementation of OBE in engineering is a cyclic and continuously improving. Okay, it is a continuous improvement system. So you cannot say I have done for one batch, so I will not do for the second batch. No, for each and every batch, each and every student, each and every batch, in practical as well as in the theory, you have to be continuously implementing the new and advanced technique. Then and only then the OBE will be a successful. Now, effective implementation of OBE gives new ideas, challenges to develop the education model which result in. Now, it is obvious that okay, when the new techniques will come, okay, it will be the great challenge for the faculty to implement that. You can now everybody is experiencing the pandemic situation. Okay, now everybody is sitting at home and everybody is enjoying the expert lecture without going here and there. Similarly, the new innovative techniques are coming in the education field, so that you need to learn and you need to implement. Then and only then you can make your class very much interesting. Third one, however, successful adoption of OBE. Okay, successful adoption of OBE is equal contribution of staff and student is required. Okay, for both ways, student as well as the staff is required. Then and only then, and student and the staff should understand their roles and responsibility. Then and only then successful implementation will be there. Then education institute should have an active engagement in the process of OBE for learners to prepare themselves for the workforce. Okay. So it should not happen that just take the degree and go. No, you have to take care that the student should be the good product or the good workforce for the industry. It should not happen, take the degree and go out. The student may score 90% mark, but that is not going to help. The student should have the skills, and that skills student should be able to implement in the industry to resolve their problem. In OBE, the end of the curriculum does not signal the end of the learning process. Okay, so you cannot say only the curriculum is going to affect, or curriculum going to be more responsible for the actual implementing. However, students should remain busy, always busy in lifelong learning and developing the new skill. For that, at the same time, faculty also has to be continuously busy in inculcating the new things in the students, new ideas, new innovative techniques in the students. So this way, all about my presentation. I hope that everyone has enjoyed, and thank you for those Rathod sir for giving me the opportunity to share my views. This is nothing but my practical experience which I learned during my NBA visit. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. Let us see whether our participants have any questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Particularly Bhavtankar, sir. Dr. Bhavtankar has initially posted one of the question, ma'am, when your presentation was going on. And
Yeah, yeah.
I'll read one of the question you have answered. One you have
Yes,
answered.
but the earlier one, I guess I may have missed.
Yeah. So I'll read. Typical question. Sir is asking.
Rathod sir,
Yes, sir.
I will unshare the screen PPT so that we can talk.
Yeah. You can answer. No problem. Is the quality of teaching learning measured with the attainment of program outcomes? Sir wants to say that what does these digits signify? 1, 2, 3. It means is it about the quality of teaching learning?
According to me, I feel it is about the performance of the particular batch of the students, how they have acquired those skills in their span of 4 years. So probably somewhere, I personally also feel that when you're comparing attainment of two batches, also it is not very fair because the set of students are different. So I think it is PO attainment reflects how that batch of students have flared in the 4 years of engineering and what have they gathered in their span of 4 years of engineering. Indirectly, somewhere it shows up the quality of teaching learning, because how much ever good the candidate may be, how the inputs are and how the ecosystem is also matters in his or her learning. Of course, exceptionally for a particular candidate, it may happen that he does not require any ecosystem to learn. But generally for the batch or for the mob, I think it is their performance which is reflected by the attainment. But our system of teaching and giving inputs and designing assessment tools should be good enough, because sometimes it may happen that you may not have designed good tools, and maybe take an example of very easy question paper, let us say, and everybody performs well, and then the course attainment will be very, very good, isn't it? Course outcome attainment will be, assessment will be very good. And if overall your institute does such things, then the PO attainment also will be showing up good numbers. So showing up good numbers means it's a combination of assessment tools vis-a-vis how they have performed. So again, I mean, suppose in a university pattern, some universities, everybody is getting 9-pointer. Will you consider that as a good academic system? Or in any result for that matter, why do we see the standard bell-shaped curve? Why do we see that? Because that indicates the normal distribution and fair system. So I think PO attainment reflects the performance of the students batch in a fairly designed system, but it is so much subjective, case to case, it will differ. So I think that is why NBA keeps the expert team to go visit, interact with faculty, interact with students, see the ecosystem, and then decide how the numbers are fair or not fair, kind of. I mean, that is my take on this. Lekroy sir, maybe you want to say something on that.
No, it's correct, madam, what you're saying. Because from batch to batch, the students are different. No?
Maybe sir, Rathod sir, what is your opinion on this?
You are absolutely right, madam. You are absolutely right. But let me ask Bhavtankar sir, if he is satisfied, is okay. Otherwise, I'll also comment. Bhavtankar sir, what do you want to say?
Actually,
Is it
sir,
okay?
Actually, why this question came to my mind is these are the constant things, all numbers and attainment, and after 3 you won't go up beyond that. You need to change the set the target value and improve the teaching learning methodology continuously. But sometimes what happens after attainment, people are happy with what they have got after a course. After a teaching of the entire course, they have got all attainment achieved, and they're happy. Then it means that they have done well. And when it comes to the audit, that they have to justify all these figures. So that was the intention behind asking this question.
Yeah. The auditor says that your COs are framing is wrong. Okay, but Aarti madam explained very nicely, sir. She has actually elaborate in an elaborate manner. She has given the
Yes,
answer for the
that
answer for the
indicates
question.
the batch of students, how they have.
Correct,
That
correct.
is why I said that,
And the
understanding the philosophy or internalizing the philosophy is important. Because let me ask you something, that if a genuinely good student who is passionate about learning technology, let me take this example, he gets some 9-pointer or some good grade in his career. Does he stop reading? Does he stop getting knowledge? Does he stop doing good things in the laboratory? Does he stop experimenting? Does he stop doing projects? He does not. Actually, because his focus is not on that pointer, his focus is on gaining knowledge, he's focusing on experiencing, his focus is on doing better and better. I guess that is the philosophy which even NBA wants to say. Of course, we are quantifying, we are calculating, and we're putting up finally. Many people have said, in the end, ek do teen hi likhna hai na, to kuch to likh dete hain. It's not like that. Actually, that is why if you are convinced about your system and you can justify to the expert teams, I guess it does not matter even if your numbers are not 3, maybe 2.5 or 2.45. I think they are fine.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So what Madam said, I will again add on to that. Madam has given an example of if somebody is getting more marks or an attainment, very good attainment. Does it mean that quality of education is excellent? Vice versa, somebody may not be getting a very good attainment, maybe only 1.2. It also doesn't mean that the quality of education is very bad. It is an intent with which the teacher is teaching the course, which the teacher has drafted the outcomes, and with which the teacher is doing an assessment. All are important. If you are writing a course outcome, student will be able to do computation, right? And if you're asking 2 plus 3 is equal to what, probably the assessment is very simple. Everybody is going to get all marks, right? But then if you're asking now, get the database of, let us say, how many people are affected by the COVID in India, apply some ML algorithm, and then compute something, then that problem becomes real-time problem and it's very difficult to assess, right? So it is a contextual based quality of teaching learning. Basically, everything is teacher and the student. Teacher is going to decide what quality of his teaching is or the learning that is happening. And Madam has rightly said everything about it. One more point which Madam has said, and in presentation also, I think she has elaborated. It is a control system, right? It is a control system. So our entire NBA process is a control system, and control system is a basic course for all engineering branches, basically, and we all understand. So if it is an open loop control system, you give an input, there is some block which does some computation, and you get an output. There is no control over it. Anything, any point of time can disturb the entire system, right? It is a very stable system, but very inaccurate system, right? Error can come at any point of time and can get amplified in uncontrolled manner. So you need to sense the output and then feedback it to the input. So feedback, kind of a 360-degree feedback, is very, very important in any improved system. If you want to improve a system, that's why there is a feedback system, and that's why we are talking about these case studies. So we are taking the feedback from various stakeholders and we are giving it to an input, and we are trying to design a controller which is going to minimize this error. Obviously, in this case, what Madam said, it depends on an input. If you are changing the input, your error will also change, your output will also change. Therefore, this closed loop system is applicable for batch to batch, and therefore improvement has to be seen from first year to final year. It's like that. So Madam was absolutely right about it. And therefore, PO computation, when you see the PO wise computation 1, 2, 3 digits, actually you should be comparing to that batch itself. Improvement should happen in that batch itself, not for the second batch, right? So obviously second batch we are going to improve, but comparison is at that level. So thank you Bhatankar sir for asking a